Apologies. Okay, that's fine. Okie doke. So you crack on, Leanne, if you want to introduce yourself.
Right, yes. Okay, so my name is Leanne Holman, and my job or my role is as a staff tutor for nursing at the Open University. So it's part of my role to work with employee partners and organisations to firstly recruit students onto the nursing associate and also the nursing programme. Um, and then once students are on the programme, it's a kind of like a liaison and an overview with students, employers, and the training curve to ensure that learners and students are progressing on the programme and having a general overview of the progress of learners on the programme. So it's very much kind of like a 3 or even a 4 party way, considering it's part of primary care um, with supporting progression on the Nursing Associate programme. So what I'm here today to talk about is about the application process for, this is the February 2024 cohort, which we're now starting recruitment for. So we're now in the recruitment period for this. Now we were going to, shall we do that afterwards, Sarah, and sort of get together and have some dates for application submissions and interviews, and then let everybody know at the end afterwards. Sarah, are you there? Okay, but so we'll come.
I'm not sure where she's gone.
Okay,
Not sure where she's
sorry.
gone, Leanne. Yeah, that makes sense. So obviously
Yeah,
use the time to update on the applications, and we'll come back to kind of verify
that's
the dates we're
yeah,
working to.
yeah.
All
Because
right.
what I'll do once we confirm the dates, I'll add it to this slide set, and I'll send it to Sarah, and she can email out to everybody.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no
Thank
problem.
you.
So, what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about the Nursing Associate Programme and also how the Nursing Associate Programme works within the Open University, how we deliver that programme, and also the support we offer the students, what the programme looks like, the number of hours it needs completing, and all the practicalities of what the Nursing Associate Programme is. Now, for anybody who's applying in February, I'd say this is really important that you, one, have a look at the Open University website, look at the Nursing Associate Programme. This gives you some of the basic details. This will, we do ask you when you come to interview about, what you know about the Open University, so do a bit of research before you do come to interview. But I'll give you a little bit of sort of insight into how the Open University works in delivering this programme. We'll talk about the recruitment process and also have some time for questions as well. And I think somebody said they're going to come, is that you, Joe? You're going to talk about the funding at the end of the presentation.
Yes, please, Leanne. Yes, please.
Okay. So just a little bit about the Open University. So this slide always makes me laugh a little bit because that education should be open to anyone at any time and any place. It always reminds me of the advert. I think it was I think it's a Martini advert, isn't it? Any time, any place, anywhere. I think they've just stolen that and adapted it a little bit. But it is true that we do try to be open to anyone at any time and any place. I would say with this being a professional programme, there is some stipulations that they need to be achieved before applying to this programme. So usually with other Open University courses or degree programmes, there isn't any entry requirements. However, because this is an NMC regulated programme, there is some requirements in order that you need to have in order to apply for this programme. But very much the any time and any place is quite true in how we deliver. We don't have, everything is all delivered online. So everything that you will study theoretically will be online, and everything you need to access, all the study materials are online as well. So you don't go to a university, like the University of Northampton, for example, for 1 day a week and you are delivered tuition from a tutor in that way. It does involve an element of self-discipline as well, and working through the materials online. So it involves some dedication, some time management, and thinking about how you're going to manage that as well as you go through the programme. So the nursing associate, or the position of the nursing associate, is a registered generic nursing role in England. And this aims to bridge the gap between healthcare support workers and registered nurses. So nursing associates, or the nursing associate programme, is not field specific. So it means that you have experience and exposure to all fields of nursing practice. So that means adult nursing, mental health, loss and disability, and children and young people's nursing. So you have experience in all those areas. And you also have experience across the lifespan, so from birth to death. So it's very much a generic role, which gives you that experience, which you can then either use as a standalone qualification as a nursing associate, or sometimes people can just use that and just stay as a nursing associate within that role, or they can then use that as a stepping stone to become registered nurses and then do a field-specific training. So we offer a nursing associate top-up route in order to then become a registered nurse. So like any other registered nurses, nursing associates deliver hands-on person-centred care. They're part of the multidisciplinary team. But where they've got 7 platforms of proficiencies for registered nurses, this is slightly less. So nursing associates do have their own standards of proficiency. And what you then do is, if you go on to become a registered nurse, during your training you then develop those further 2 standards or platforms for registered nurses. So we work in partnership, and this is an apprenticeship programme as well, so very much working in partnership with employers, with students, and also with service users as well. And our module materials are designed with service users and also with other academics and practice leads. So we do link in, I think, quite well with employers and the training hub to support students throughout their time on the programme. So everything is all in one place for students. So that means that there is an element of flexibility in how students work through the requirements of the Nursing Associate programme. So we have 2 cohorts at the moment. So our next cohort is going to be in February 2024. And I can't get my head around saying 2024 at the moment because I don't know where 2023 has got to yet, but we are currently recruiting for February 2024. But just to make you aware, if you don't apply for February 2024, we do have, or plan to have, the next intake will be October 2024. And the recruitment pretty much starts as soon as the last recruitment period is finished. So as part of the programme, you will study 4 modules. So it runs for 2 years. So it runs from February 2024 to February 2026. And within that time, you study 4 modules. There are 2 what's called theory modules and 2 practice modules. So you start in February studying a theory module which is called K102. You can see here that not all the modules run for the whole length of the year. The 2 practice modules, so the practice module in the first year doesn't start until March, so you do have a little bit of time where you're just studying the theory module until you then start studying the practice module. So each module is worth 60 credits. You have 2 theory modules and 2 practice modules across the 2 years of the programme. The Nursing Associate Top-Up Programme, if you want to know about that, so that's where you can top up to become a registered nurse, is over 20 months. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the modules and what they entail. So at level 1, or stage 1, or year 1, we do use these interchangeably, but you study, when you first come in to the programme, you study 2 modules. One is called K102, which is the theory module, and one is called K104, which is the practice module. So starting off with the kind of like the introductory module, this is the kind of like the foundation module for all students who are studying any kind of health and social care qualification with the Open University. And so this module is studied by lots and lots of different types of students. So not just nurses or nursing associates, it's studied by social workers, anybody doing any kind of health and social care qualification, and also people can study this as a standalone module as well. So you often get a good mix of students studying this module, which I think is a really good learning experience, because when you are put into tutor groups on this module, you'll be with lots of different students, and you can share and learn from each other. So it might be that you have informal carers as part of this module. It might be that you actually have service users studying this module as well. So a really good basis to start the Nursing Associate programme. It is purely theoretical, this module, in that there's no practice elements associated with it, or practice assessments or requirements in practice. So it's a general starting to build your study skills as well. There are some elements of developing your academic practice. So if you are new to study or haven't studied for quite a while, it doesn't expect you to have any prior knowledge, and helps you to develop your academic skills. I should also say that even though students who come onto this programme may be quite experienced healthcare practitioners either within general practice or whatever you've done, again, it doesn't expect any prior experience. So it might feel that you feel like you're taking a step back in some ways, because you know quite a lot about some of these things already, but it's starting to think about it in a different way. And also what these modules get you to do is reflect upon your own areas of practice and developing your own skills within your particular practice area. So there are some parts of this module, so even though it is studied by lots of different people, there are some parts of this module and activities which are specifically for people taking any nursing or nursing associate programme. So it is then getting you to think beyond what you already know and developing your knowledge and skills in that area. So starting to think about reflection as well, starting to think about legislation and policy and guidance, very much a general introduction to health and social care from a theoretical perspective. Within this first year of the Nursing Associate programme, you also have a practice module. So this is called K104, and it's an introduction to healthcare practice. And this is where you have elements of assessment within practice associated with this module as well. So you have what's called a practice portfolio or a practice assessment document, and there'll be some assessments which you need to achieve within practice, and also some proficiencies as well which you need to achieve. It covers very much the fundamentals of nursing practice, which you then learn in theory within this module. There are some theory elements associated with it, working through module materials, which develop your knowledge around certain practical skills and the evidence base around certain practical skills. So things such as anatomy and physiology, person-centred care, public health, and health promotion, infection control, communication, those kind of things. So some of the fundamental skills within nursing practice. You study that in theory, and then you then get assessed within practice as being able to demonstrate some of those skills through what's known as your practice assessment document. So it is about applying what you're learning into practice, and we're aware that people come from all sorts of different practice areas. So this particular practice module is studied by nurses and nursing associates, and from all 4 fields of practice. So again, it's not specific to a particular area of practice, but you're encouraged to reflect and apply what you're learning to your particular area of practice. And also, you'll have various external placements within this module to fulfill some of the requirements of the proficiencies and assessments in practice. So I'll talk a little bit about placements later on. So on completion of stage 1 of the Nursing Associate Programme, you then progress on to stage 2 or level 2. So this is the final stage of the Nursing Associate Programme. So again, you have a theory module and you have a practice module. So these 2 modules are studied concurrently. The theory module is for this level is just for nursing associates. It is only studied by nursing associates, and this develops your knowledge around different or across the lifespan and all 4 fields of practice. So you start to look at things like long-term conditions, family bereavement, higher level sort of anatomy and physiology, person-centred care, transition, a lot of sort of knowledge across the lifespan and across all 4 fields of practice as well. And also throughout this this module, and also in stage 1 as well, you are assessed with medicines management. And this is also assessed within the practice module as well. So you have another practice module, which is called K211. And again, you have certain proficiencies and assessments in practice that need to be achieved within a practice assessment document or an EPAD, an e-portfolio. So this next practice module starts to look more at leadership, more about evidence base and higher level nursing practice. If you have any questions as you go on, please do type in the chat box, but we will have some time at the end for questions as well. So how we deliver the nurse education is, as I said, it's completely online. Everything is all in one place and is accessed online. And this is done by students logging into the OU website and to their particular module and working their way through the module materials. And this is done within their study time, which is their allocated. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So they have a study day in which is allocated, again some flexibility in which day this is, where students are able to work their way through the module materials. The module materials are delivered through an online platform and through the AU website, and each module has its own website. And we have a study calendar. You work your way through the calendar, and you have various links to interactive materials, reflective activities, videos, links to books and ebooks, links to articles, and lots of different resources which are used within the module materials. There's inductions that we have as well. So we have an induction at the start of the programme and also at the start of the second stage of the programme as well. The tutorials are delivered online as well. So for each of the modules, whether it be a practice module or a theory module, students are allocated a module tutor. Okay, so the module tutor is the person who is responsible for supporting the student through their academic or theory side of the programme and for each of the modules. And so there's regular tutorials that students have, but these again are flexible. They tend to be during the evenings, or sometimes they can be during the daytime at weekends, but they are delivered usually around about every 2 or 3 weeks. There would be an online tutorial for around 1 to 2 hours with the module tutor. This is all done online again, so there's no need to physically attend a university to attend these tutorials. For each of the practice modules, students are also allocated what's called a practice tutor or an academic assessor. This is in addition to the module tutor. So the practice tutor or academic assessor is the person who supports the student within their practice to achieve everything they need to within their practice assessment document, to ensure that they're achieving the number of hours that are required for progression, and also the assessments within practice, such as the proficiencies that need to be achieved in practice and other parts of the assessments within the practice assessment document. The student will have regular meetings with a practice tutor. Again, these are usually done via Teams meetings and involve the practice assessor, and also can be involved the line manager as well. So the practice tutor also is responsible for the apprenticeship review meetings that take place as well. So there are regular meetings and support from a practice tutor. We encourage students to take part or become a student, kind of like a body of, or develop student support within peer-to-peer support with each other, a community of learners. And this is done through forum discussions and activities, also through tutor group time and tutorials where students can reflect and share their experiences and their thoughts with other students and comment on other students' points as well. So we encourage people to become a community of learners through these forum discussions on particular activities. There's also an OU Study app, so this means that this can be downloaded onto mobile phones and tablets, iPads, so that the module materials can be accessed more easily as well via various resources. So this is where we said there is some flexibility and you're able to access the module materials relatively easily and work through them. So this is an example of a module web page. So this is an example of one which was in 2022. So the J, it would mean October. So we use letters for each of the months. So to ignore that. So 2024, we say February would be B. So if you started K102 in February, your cohort would be February or 2024 B. So that's what the letter means. Okay, so it's the year and the month that you started. So as you can see here, you have a study calendar, and where it says blocks, block 1, topic 1, you work your way through each of the blocks and you have dedicated or specific work to complete each week throughout each of the throughout that module. So each module is broken down into study weeks with work that needs completing or materials to read throughout that during that particular week. And each of the modules looks the same, so everything is accessed through the module web page. So assessments, there's different types of assessments. So in the theoretical based modules or the theory modules, there are what's called tutor marked assignments, so we call them TMAs. So these can be presentations, they can be short essays, or reports, or various different types of assignments. And as I said, they do start off not having any prior study skills, and the aim is to develop your study skills and also develop your academic knowledge as you go through the programme. So more is expected of you within your assignments as you go through the programme. But you do get support and help with your study skills. We also have what's called interactive computer mapped assignments. So you do these within the 3 nursing modules. So you don't do an interactive computer mapped assignment for K102, but you do for the other 3 modules. So the 2 practice modules and the nursing associate theory module. And this is usually a quiz. So it's 20 questions, or around about 20 questions, where you're given usually on numeracy and pharmacology, anatomy and physiology, where you are given a time frame in which you need to answer a certain number of questions. So usually there's a window when this ICMA is open, or you have to complete all of the questions. So that's one example there. You also have what's called end of module assessments. So you have, for the theory modules, you have usually a longer piece of work, so a reflective essay. And then for the practice modules, you also have to submit your practice assessment document. So you also have to have completed all the assessments in practice and all the hours required in practice, and that gets submitted as part of the assessment for the practice modules. Now, a lot of this might not be making sense at the moment, but once you start on programme, you do get an induction, you do get lots of help and support from your module tutors, from me as a staff tutor, from the training hub as well, and your practice tutors to sort of guide you through what you need to be doing and when. For apprentices, there is also the need to complete an initial skills scan. So this is done prior to registration, and also have regular training plan and progress review meetings. These are completed with the allocated practice tutor and the student and the line manager. Students also need to record what's called their off-the-job learning hours. And again, this is all completed through the e-portfolio. So study days, which the student has, are classed as off-the-job learning hours, and these are recorded in a different way on the e-portfolio, or the e-pad, sorry, I should say. Any questions so far? I'm just going to have a sip of water before I carry on. Was there anything you want to say about that, Sarah, at all? Yeah.
All straightforward. Thanks, Leanne.
Okay, so thinking about practice-based learning. So what we're trying to do, although we have theory modules and practice modules, it is about applying what you're learning in theory to practice and developing your knowledge and developing your skills in practice as well. So it's about that, kind of like that independent learning as well. And even though some of the materials are not specific to your own practice areas, this is where you are encouraged to think about your own practice areas, think about where you are, and also where going on external placement as well, and applying what you've learned into that particular practice area. So it's about that integration of study skills. So I spoke about this thing called off-the-job learning hours, or it can be called planned hours. Now, there's 2 kind of strands to the programme, because it is an apprenticeship. So we've got the apprenticeship side of things, where there's various things which need to be met. And then you've got the NMC side of things. So again, where there are requirements which are needed to be achieved, both in theory and in practice. So when we're talking about off-the-job requirements or off-the-job learning, this is a apprenticeship requirement. Okay, so the hours that we talk about are to do with apprenticeships, not with the NMC requirements of progressing to NMC registration as a nursing associate. Okay, so the planned hours for the programme are 800. So 800 hours need to be achieved across the programme, and this is off-the-job learning hours. So the NMC requirements are 1,150 of theoretical learning. So I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But this is where you achieve these hours for the both the theory side of things and also for the apprenticeship side of the programme through study days or protected learning time for theory. And this is your off-the-job or planned hours. Okay, there's a lot of different terminology which is used, but study days, the days that you have, which are protected for learning and working through the module materials, are part of your NMC requirements, but also count towards part of your off-the-job learning hours for the apprenticeship side of things. Does that make sense? So you have theory hours to achieve for the NMC and off-the-job hours to achieve for the apprenticeship side of things. So by having study days or time protected to work through the module materials, that counts as well as your theory hours for the NMC and also your off-the-job learning time. So this can be taken in blocks or days. So this is the study day that you have, and it's used to study module materials and complete assignments and in any location, or complete any of the what we call the applying theory to practice tasks whilst at work in protected learning time. So this can be specifically for theoretical learning. So sometimes we say that time where you're protected to learn and develop within your practice hours can be used for this time as well. So with planned hours, we can say for up to 58 hours within your external placement can also contribute these planned hours. But at this moment in time, don't worry too much about that. How your week is sort of planned, your study day is planned, and your placements are planned, but all make sure that you achieve everything that you need to, both in the apprenticeship side of things and also the NMC side of things. So the programme requirements, so there's going to be a lot of hours discussed now. So the theory hours, which you need to achieve both 1,150 hours for theory, 1,150 hours in practice, supernumerary practice, protected supervised practice, I beg your pardon. Okay, so by default, by studying the modules, by working your way through the module materials, all four modules, you complete the required 1,150 theory hours required. So you work your way through the module materials and all the activities. That gives you the 1,150 hours. So you don't need to do anything other than work your way through the materials in order to achieve those hours. And you have study days where you can work through the module materials in order to achieve those theory hours and also your off-the-job hours. In practice, you have to achieve a certain number of hours, and it's 575 hours in each year of the programme. And this constitutes supernumerary. I keep saying supernumerary practice. I do apologise. I was doing a nurse degree apprenticeship briefing yesterday, and I've got supernumerary hours in my mind. So supervised practice is what I should be saying. Okay, so Each year, students need to be achieving 575 hours of supervised practice. And within that, um, that encompasses both protected learning time within the primary placement and also external placement hours spent outside of the primary placement. So across the 2 years of the programme, students have to achieve 460 hours in external supernumerary placements. So in total, that brings you to 1,150 hours. But what I should say is that because the 2 practice modules are also studied by nurses or nursing students, they need to achieve 770 hours. So the module requirement is 770 hours. However, nursing associates don't need to achieve 770 hours in supervised practice. It's 575, but we take 195 hours in each stage in any capacity to make up to the 770 hours. So it looks a little bit like this. I know it's sort of, it seems confusing at the moment, the hours which need to be achieved. So ideally, this is how it would look. There can be a little bit of leeway. So as long as the 460 hours are achieved across in a contrasting setting, in external placements across the 2 years, ideally we'd have 230 per year, which then leaves 345 hours within the primary placement. So the primary placement is the usual place of work. So you see your usual place of work as one long extended placement each year. So you have one long extended placement throughout each stage of the programme where you have to achieve 345 hours of learning, supervised learning, which is protected learning time or protected learning time as a student. So time where you are within your current place of work, where you're supported to learn and develop. So you then have 345 hours in the primary placement, ideally 230 in external placement, and then 195 hours in any capacity. So this is usually in the workplace. And what we class as an external placement is something which is 5 days or more. So in order to achieve all the requirements across the 4 fields of practice and across the lifespan, you can have insights or spoke visits into other areas. So these may be for 1 or 2 days at a time, and these count as part of your protected learning time in the primary placement rather than external placement hours. So they count towards the 345 hours. I think the nursing associate programme and the hours which need to be achieved can be confusing. So as long as you have 575 hours of supervised practice per year, you get 460 hours in external placements and across the 2 years. How that works can be flexible. So for example, if a student achieved more or had more than 230 hours in external placements in 1 year, they wouldn't need as many hours in the primary placement with protected learning time. Because as long as you get to the 575, how that is made up between the protected learning time within the primary placement with the external hours can be flexible, but there is a need to have that 575 hours each year in supervised practice, but with the 460 hours in external placements across the 2 years. So thinking about placements, so these external placements help you to get experience across all 4 fields of practice, or they can also be part of insight visits as well. And they help you have that the knowledge across the lifespan as well. So, Sarah, I don't know whether you want to come in and talk about placements there and how they're arranged and what happens with those.
Yeah, hi everybody. So we try and front load the placements, external placements, in year 1 and in year 2, just to kind of mitigate against any annual leave or any kind of bereavements or any family, emergencies or what have you, where you'll be missing, potentially missing a block of time. So we try to get them all done at the beginning of each of the 2 years. We offer 6 or 4-week placements, and they are generally a medical ward, a surgical ward, mental health environment, hopefully, if we can, children and young people services, and obviously a community placement as well. So we try to give you a really varied broad spectrum of placements over the 2 years. And in turn, we ask that you reciprocate your placements with other students so that we can provide placements in primary care for those students that are in secondary care. So effectively, we just swap you like for like. We did have quite a bit more flexibility in previous years, but because of the volumes of students that we've got coming through the system in Northamptonshire at the moment, our acute partners have limited our placements to 30 hours or 22.5 hours for 6 weeks or 4 weeks. So whereas before we could release people for 15 hours a week over a 12-week period, which meant you still got your 15 hours in practice and your 7.5 hours theory, we don't have that luxury anymore, I'm afraid. So all placements moving forwards from this cohort will be block placements, either 22.5 or 30 hours a week, probably more like 22.5 or 25 hours, because they do long days at the hospital and also night duty. So it may be if you're doing a 30-hour week, then you might have to do 2 weeks of 2 shifts and then 1 week of 3 shifts, for example, to kind of make up those placement hours. But again, everything's is negotiable with the trusts, so except obviously the times that we give you in which to go. What else can I tell you about them? We try really hard to keep your placements as local to you as possible. So for those of you that are in the north of the county, we look to use Kettering General, and those for you in the south of the county, we like to use Northampton General. Obviously, our mental health and community services are with NHFT and with St Andrews Hospital as well. So we kind of share and we reciprocate placements with their students while you're out and about, learning your new skills and your new genre of nursing. I don't think there's anything else really to kind of say, Leanne. I think from a simplistic
time in the primary placement, about how you have got like a planner for that, don't you? How that works.
Yeah, so how we organise our time in primary care to help you with these hours, because it can be quite confusing, is that we divide the working week up into sort of days. So you will do 7.5 hours of theory, and that can be any day of the week. You can do 15 hours in your core role, so that's of a healthcare assistant or as a receptionist or a phlebotomist or whatever you are currently before you start the programme. And then we ask you to do 15 hours a week of what we call supernumerary student nurse practice, if you like, where you're in practice, you're with your supervisor, you're learning new skills, you're supernumerary to the numbers, so that allows you to move throughout the practice and through other professionals and disciplines, and also allows you and gives you the time and space to learn new skills, so that when you qualify after the 2-year period, you're actually really up and running with almost all the skills that you're required to take on your new role. So these weeks are intermingled with your external placement weeks. But as I say, we do try to kind of front load the external placements, just purely from experience. It works better that way. And we have to work with our partners as to when they can accommodate us as well. So we're very much dependent on the whole system working as one. Whereas before, because of our numbers were quite small, we were able to sort of dip in and dip out, but unfortunately that's no longer the case. Does anybody have any questions about placements? You can talk to me at the end if you need to. No? Okay, crack on then. Liam?
Yep. So what we've just spoken about is around these hours, the practice hours here, and how you're accumulating those hours during your contracted hours in your working week. So you do have some support. I've spoken about some of these before in supporting you to achieve everything that you need to within practice and the practice assessment document. So you need to be allocated a practice assessor within your primary placement, so that's your initial place of work. But you can also have lots of different supervisors, and anybody who has a registered healthcare qualification can act as a supervisor, and that's really good in that you can use your protected learning time within the primary placement to work with other members of the team, other professionals, and learn and develop from them. And learn new knowledge and skills. So we encourage that during the primary placement to have multiple supervisors so that you can work with different people. You'll have one practice assessor for each of your external placements as well, and that'll be the person who's responsible for assessing you in practice, for confirming your achievement in practice, your outcomes, learning outcomes, and also any sort of assessments of proficiencies and skills within practice as well. So they are usually, the practice assessor would be a person who has undergone the new standards for nurse education training. You will also have support from an academic assessor, or this is also called the OU practice tutor. So the academic assessor and the practice tutor are the same person, and they're a person employed by the Open University to work with you and your practice assessor and supervisors in placement to ensure that you're achieving everything you need to in practice. So they work with you, they support you in achieving what you need to. They have regular meetings with you throughout each stage of the programme, and have a general responsibility for or oversight for where you are and putting into place any plans which need to be put into place for you to achieve. So there's a degree of communication needed. As I said, you won't meet face-to-face with the practice tutor or academic assessor. So there is an element of responsibility for effective communication with your practice tutor to arrange meetings, to ensure that you're supplying your or updating your EPAD regularly and in a timely way so that they can ensure that you are progressing well. So we've spoken about off-the-job training. So this is an apprenticeship requirement. Okay, so the off-the-job training, this is where you have learning, and this is undertaken outside of the normal day-to-day working environment, but within the contracted hours. So as we said, your theory day, your study day, this will count towards your off-the-job hours. But you can also use some hours within your external placements can count towards some of your off-the-job training if needed, or off-the-job hours. So this is where you're learning new knowledge and or skills or behaviours which contribute towards the successful achievement of an apprenticeship. So that's just a summary of the support which is available to students, both from an employer and a training hub perspective through an employer link and practice assessment, practice supervisors, from an OU perspective, but also with having a staff tutor, an academic tutor and a practice tutor. But also encouraging you to be a community of learners as well. As everything is online, we do have support for the Open University IT team, the student support team, and now we also have a dedicated apprenticeship support team as well for students who are any kind of apprenticeship. So this just gives a little bit of information about apprenticeships and what to expect. So we did speak about the skills scan. So this is quite a lengthy document which does need completing before commencing on the programme. And then you will develop a training plan with your practice tutor and your line manager to set goals and objectives for your apprenticeship. Recording of the job learning as well, we've spoken about that and needing to record that in a timely way, and that is signed off by your line manager. So entry requirements, so we did say that it is a professional programme and an MC regulated programme, so there is some requirements in order to be able to apply for the programme. And what we say you need to have, and this is at the point of application, you need to have this, is that you need to have literacy or functional skills at level 2, or GCSE grade C or above in English, which I believe is now at level 4, is that right? I think it's a C, if it was GCSE level. And this doesn't have to be English language, it can be English literature. So if you, as long as it says English on there, it can be included. And also you need to have numeracy, functional skills level 2, or maths, GCSE, grade C or above. And you have to have your certificates. So when you apply, when you send in your application for the Open University, you will need to have your certificates to at the point of application. So do start looking for those. There are some ways, I think, in which you can access your grades. So do contact me if there's any. I think there's a way you know about that, Sarah, about accessing the your GCSE grades, so that it'll get a copy of certificates and things.
You need to go back to your awarding body to get the originals reprinted, and there is usually a cost associated with that. But failing that, obviously, we need to do the maths and English functional skills level 2, and we use our local colleges. So for the south of the county and central, that's Northampton College at Booth Lane, and for the north of the county, that is Tresham College in Wellingborough or Kettering. What's this question? It says English C.
That's fine.
Hang on a second. Yeah, I think as long as it says C and English Lit D, is that okay?
Yep, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, as long as you've got C.
Yeah, if you've got, as long as you've got a
fine.
C for an English, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So also at the point of application, you need to evidence good character and good health. So this is done by a self-declaration and also through references through your employer. I would urge you that if at the point, if you are accepted onto the programme, it will ask you to do a DBS. So if there is any kind of conviction in the past, whether it's spent or not, just make sure you do include that, so we can look at that. So it doesn't stop you from applying for the programme, but we might need to do an applicant suitability check. So do make sure you declare everything on your application. So the application process, so as I said, we're now starting it's open for applications at this moment in time for the February 24 start. So have you got a date for expressions of interest to you, Sarah?
Yes, you gave me that. Let me tell you when that is. Sorry, just bear with me. We've only got about 2 minutes left, Leanne.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Sorry, you
No,
carry on
okay.
while I find this.
So what we do is, you give an expression of interest to the training hub. Sarah will then put that on a form and send to me. At that point, you will be sent an application form, and you'll be given a date in which you need to submit your application form. And it's at this point you need to submit your certificates as well as along with your application form.
It's the 4th of October.
4th of October, lovely.
Yeah.
So that's your expression of interest form to the training hub. So once you've submitted your application, everybody who meets the minimum requirements will be offered an interview. We need to set up the dates for the interviews, but we will let you know when the interviews are, and you'll be invited to an interview. It's a panel interview where you have 6 questions. I'd advise you to make sure you look at the Open University website to find out about the Nursing Associate Programme, what a Nursing Associate is, and also thinking about professional values in practice in preparation for your interview. So you get informed by email about when your interview will be. So I would suggest that any email address that you include is one which is easily accessible. So if you're going to be going on leave over the next few weeks or during the time, short time after the application deadline, then please give the most suitable email address to contact you on. People who are a successful interview, and this is based on a scoring system, need to achieve a minimum score at interview, are offered a conditional place in the programme. And it's at this point you will get sent a barrage of emails from lots of different places in order to register onto the programme. And because it is an apprenticeship programme, there's quite a lot of different forms and requirements to complete in order to be registered onto the programme. And there's that list there. I will send these slides out. So there is you will need to generate an Open University personal ID number, and that gives you the details of where to do that. You just need to ask, say you're applying for a professional programme. So there's just some details there about completing your application. Make sure that you include all of your work history and education history. Making sure that you do get a reference from your line manager, and they do sign it as well. That just covers if you're successful at interview. There's a link there to the Nursing Associate Standards as well, but this is just to say you will need to do a DBS process and also an occupational health review. And quite a lot of other documents required for the apprenticeship programme. Apologies that we're going over. Okay, so I will add in the recruitment timeframes onto these slides when we have them, so you know about that, and I'll send these slides to Sarah to send out to everybody. Any questions at all?
It's not really questions, Leanne. It's just really to flag. I don't really want to go into too much detail because I don't think we've got the practice kind of contacts on the phone, on the call, but we would need to obviously have discussions with your practices. The programmes are all fully funded, but there's some actions that we need to take to make that happen, and that they're really important actions. So Sarah and I will pick up those discussions outside of this because I don't think we've got the right people on the call today, unfortunately. So
yeah. Any questions?
Has anybody got anything for Leanne?
It's a lot to take in, I think.
Yeah, it is. Oh, hang on, somebody's typing, Amy.
Excuse me.
I'll stop recording now, Leanne, if that's okay.
I'll stop sharing this.